Good evening. This is my applied reflection for our course text in chapters 3, 4, and 5, applying quality management and healthcare systems approach. We will start with chapter 3, which is the characteristics of complex systems. First, if we're going to understand what the characteristics of a complex system is, we must understand what a system is. Within our course text, it's considered a set of connective parts that fit together to achieve a purpose. These connected parts may be a large healthcare system that contains many different organizations within it, such as one organization may have several different hospitals, and then offshoots to that would be urgent care facilities, day surgery centers, physician practices, specialty practices, etc. It also can be one singular healthcare organization or a macro system. Excuse me. That is generally referring to one hospital or one home health system or one skilled nursing facility. And within that macro system or even that mega system, there are smaller units or teams such as the cardiac catheterization team, the endoscopy team within the day surgery center, and these are referred to as microsystems. Basically, what these are is these are each individual units or teams that work together for their individual purpose, but it works and it fits into the system as a whole to provide total care or overall care to a patient. There are different forms of complexity within a healthcare system. Complexity itself just basically means there's many variables that interact with each other, and they can often be unpredictable. When you discuss dynamic complexity, that means that the issue or the problem at hand is, of course it's complex, but it means that if you're not careful, the solution can be just temporary and not permanent, which means that inevitably in the future that the problem is going to pop back up. It's going to be a reoccurrent issue. System complexity, there are actually 4. Please refer to the attached comment. There are 4 system characteristics in healthcare that contribute to the presence of dynamic complexity. The first one is change. Whenever you have a system, whether it's small or large, there's always going to be changes. It's consistent. That's referring to the patient and their needs, the system or the organization itself, such as like personnel, or even community or political environments, such as like the 2010 implementation of the Affordable Care Act. Trade-offs is basically giving up one thing in order to achieve another. It's kind of a tit for tat type of thing, such as, for an example, is reducing cost or reducing overall healthcare costs by reducing the total hospital stay for patients. This can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing, meaning that the patient at times can be sent home too soon. History of dependencies. Basically, this means that what happened in the past is going to influence what happens right now. What we have to be careful is that that's the way we've always done that thought process can be very dangerous. And then finally, there's tight coupling. This basically means that every part of the system is intertwined and it's interdependent, and there's no room for flexibility. Next, we'll go to chapter 4. In chapter 4, we're going to try to understand the behaviors inside or behind the system. What we have to understand is within a healthcare organization, what we see, what the busy bees that's flitting about here from there and there from here, your doctors, your nurses, your maintenance men, your registration, those are just above the surface happenings. But the very essence of what is going on within that organization is actually what is happening below the surface, or beyond what you can see unless you're actually looking for it. System structure refers to the interrelationship among elements, components, and variables that makes up the system as a whole. There are 4 lessons to be learned in regards to system behavior. Structure influences behavior. Basically, what that means is how an organization is structured is going to determine what that outcome is. If you are not getting the outcome that you desire, then you have to look into restructuring how your organization works. Structure is not readily visible unless a real effort is made to find it. Basically, like I said at the beginning of this chapter, what goes on within an organization and what you can see just by walking in the front door is not exactly what is happening at the basic level. When you look at, let's say, a watch, you know that watch is working. You can see the hand moving. You can see the second hand ticking away. But what you don't see is the interlocked and the interconnected components that's working together within inside that watch to make it work. Same thing what goes into a healthcare organization or healthcare system. Information is essential to identifying system structure. If you are to communication is key. If you are not communicating or providing the best possible information that you can, then you are setting up your system structure to fail and for your outputs to be inadequate. And then finally, successful change requires going below the proverbial quote unquote waterline, or below the surface. Basically, what that means is you can't make changes to the surface and expect them to stick. If you're going to make changes to the structure of your system, then those changes have to be made at the very core of your system. If you're going to fix the frame of a car, then you can't just slap on some JB Weld and expect that your car is going to function correctly. You have to take the time and you have to weld those pieces together and grind them down, sand them down. And the same thing goes within your healthcare organization. Chapter 5 is visualizing system relationships. Every system works in 3 ways. You have your input. That's what's coming in, and that's what's affecting how your organization works. That's your patients, your personnel, your supplies, your equipment, your facilities. Then you have your conversion process. Basically, what that means is this is what is happening in order to affect your overall outcome or your output. That's your diagnostic processes, your clinical treatment, your operational activities, your business management functions. If your business management functions are not where they need to be, or are not operating at optimal conditions, then your system is going to fail. You're not going to make any capital. You're not going to have the money to provide adequate personnel or supplies to your adequate personnel. Your equipment's going to fail. This all goes hand in hand. And then finally, you have your output. This is your end goal. This is what you want to be successful. Controlling the quality of organizations' inputs and their conversion processes ultimately improve the quality of its outputs per Spath and Kelly within our text. This is achieved through the adoption of one or more models, often within your micro-organizations and your management within those specific units and teams. A manager will choose which model that they feel best affects their unit. Those are an example is an interconnected system model. Shows this is patient-centered focus. This means that everything that you do within your model directly affects the care that your patient receives. And then there's the 3 core process model. It's a horizontal view. So it's like a 3-step view. This affects this, but it doesn't affect it interconnectedly. And this type of model suggests that if you improve any part of your process, then that's going to increase the value of your services that's provided. Now, while this system may not work effectively within healthcare, it may work within like a manufacturing type system. But either way, you're still going to affect the output or the quality of your output by choosing or not choosing the proper model to use for your individual unit or your individual team or your organization or structure as a whole. Biblical reflection. From whom the body joined and held together by every joint for which it is equipped, when each part is working properly, makes the body grow so that it builds itself up in love. Within an organizational system, whether it is known or even acknowledged, each part of that organizational system works together and affects another part, whether it is a good or a bad effect. So if one part is not working well or needs improvement, then ultimately it can lead to another part of the organization not operating effectively. This reduces your quality patient outcomes. This is going to reduce your overall capital. It's going to reduce how effective your management works, your healthcare team works, even down to your basic maintenance level. If you don't have the capital to provide the basic equipment for your organization to operate, then you can't provide the quality patient outcome that's your goal. So overall, when you're looking at a healthcare system and how an healthcare system works and how it is organized and how it functions and how each part works together, whenever you're working as an administrator or within a management type position within a healthcare system or within a healthcare organization, you cannot lose track of the fact or lose sight of the fact that whatever you do directly or indirectly affects every part of the organization. It's like a ripple in a pond. You can have a calm pond, but if I throw a rock in that, you're going to create these ripples, and eventually you're going to have ripples across the entire pond. The same goes within your healthcare organization.